We welcome now Gregg Harper, former congressman for Mississippi's 3rd District. Hey, Gregg, how's it going, man? Good to see you.
Good, Gerard. Glad to be with you today. And man, what a crazy time and crazy world. I just think everybody's pretty devastated right now.
Yeah, I think that is quite accurate. We've been talking about it all morning. And, of course, honestly, Gregg, I'm having a hard time composing myself and just trying to pick the right words to describe what happened yesterday, what we witnessed, and then, of course, this day marking 24 years since the 9/11 attack on our country, direct attack on our country, our way of life. And to some extent, I feel like there's some similarities there, Gregg, that there are people that just don't like the way other people think and their lifestyle and their standards and their values, and they just decide to take matters into their own hands and believe that the only remedy is to kill other people. It's incomprehensible.
You know, when we were younger, before social media, it wasn't this toxic, and so
Right.
that's just sort of been a nightmare, that people will say things. You've seen it. I saw it when I was in office. People would say things on social media they would never have said to your face, not without a price to pay for saying it to your face. And now, I mean, it's just the hate that's out there, the ease that there is there. All I know is Charlie Kirk was a rising star, beautiful family, and our heart's broken, really, for his wife and kids, and just for what it means for our country, and and look at all we've had. One direct attempt on Trump's life that was just a miracle that he survived that, and then another that would have been, and then this, and you can go look at what happened in Minnesota with the lawmakers there. I mean, it's not limited to just one side, but what is the left's response every time? It's, well, we need gun control, and no, we need to teach people the value of human life, and because the evil man that murdered that poor Ukrainian girl on the metro in Charlotte, he didn't have a gun, but he had lots of issues going on. So, I mean, Gerard, I don't know. Do you think this will mean people will kind of try to tone it down? From comments I see on social media right now, it's ramped up, not toned down.
No, I agree. I think it has increased and intensified to a great extent. But I also think we can't be complacent anymore. And that's not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that violence is the answer, because it's clearly not. We denounce that 100%. But we can't just be idle anymore and let these kind of things happen. So, Gregg, you've served in the United States House of Representatives with honor and distinction. You've got a bunch of people that all have different viewpoints, but you got to work together to try to take care of the people's business. But I'm just appalled this morning. We played the clip. You're probably aware of it, that when the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, called for a moment of silence, just out of respect for this loss of life of someone that everybody knows and knew, that many in the chamber objected to it and got boisterous, and he called for order, and they never could get that done. I mean, what in the world's going on?
Well, it's, of all bodies that should know that it's got to be toned down, you would think it would be Congress, because every one of those members, Republicans or Democrats, deal with safety issues and threats, death threats to their family, and it's just not good when you see it go off the rails like that. But we look back to when I think it was my first joint session to attend, Obama's first one, when Joe Wilson yelled out, "You lie."
Yeah,
that seems really mild today, doesn't it? It's
yeah, that's true.
That really wasn't much then, but now it's like, oh my gosh, what goes on the floor, the lack of decorum there. It's a pretty tough deal, because we have some members that They'll just say whatever they want. But I will say this: my concern is that this will have a potentially, I hope it doesn't, will have a chilling effect on good people getting involved in the process.
Man, I hope that's not
It's
the
like,
case.
do you want to put your family through that? I mean, it's tough. It's just easier to just have your feelings and stay over the sidelines when those are the kind of people we need to have, leading the way.
Yeah, totally agree. And you got to believe, Greg, that Charlie Kirk knew that every time he went onto these college campuses where the attitude with respect to his values and his beliefs, his worldview was overwhelmingly in opposition of it, yet he didn't hesitate to go there with a small minority of students and some faculty that actually aligned with his viewpoints and would of course come out to see him, and many times of course he would invite people that didn't agree with him, and they often attended, and he would invite them to the front, come express your views and let's have a conversation about it. But he always let them speak, and it was not degrading or demeaning, and he didn't smear them in any way. He let them speak, and then he just offered his counter views. Isn't that the way it's supposed to work?
Yeah, he was perfect in his approach. He was respectful. He'd let others have their say. He'd try to answer it, and not in a, not really an emotional, certainly an adamant way. That he was definitely, very firm in his beliefs, but he was always respectful. I mean, when you're talking about, here's a man who just with the let's say with the legacy media, with the traditional college campuses, he just was one of those that was very, I mean, look, he was as brave as could be. It cost him his life. And we're just, devastated. And what do? Do you say, well, I'm going to go hide in my closet now and I'm not going to go anywhere or do anything? That would be absolutely, not the legacy that he would want to see. And so I'm hopeful that people will learn. I really think his approach was the greatest approach we've seen. And I give him a lot of credit for turning out young people to vote for Trump this last election. He was he was critical to what happened this last time.
And it would be a guess, it would be speculation at this point. But Greg, what do you think? Do you think that perhaps was a factor here, that he was unabashed about his support for the president, and I think he turned around a lot of attitudes about the president among that sort of Generation Z young complement in our society? Perhaps that was at play here.
Yeah, I mean, was that a factor? We don't know. I mean, the last that I heard before we went on air was they still have not identified the suspect. So it's pure speculation at this point. But no doubt his effectiveness made him an even greater enemy. And look, he spent his whole life since he, I think, dropped out of college, being at the forefront and showing. I mean, he'd go, people would get in his face and threaten him. I mean, this was nothing new. This seemed like a pretty safe environment for him, though, if you just were looking at it on paper. And so I just give him, just great amount of regard and respect. And I think he's somebody that the public will not forget about. And I know he's going to be missed in that role. And you've got to hope that others will step up that have that influence with people younger than me. And I'm hoping that he'll do that, because he was, I mean, monumental on college campuses and a game changer.
And we've been talking about it this morning, and we've talked about it a lot on this program, but it feels like, Greg, that college campuses are where a lot of these bad attitudes are taught and engendered, and that's a big influencer on the young population in this country that seem to just think so lowly of folks on the right and conservative values.
Oh, I think it's pretty widespread that he was hated, certainly by probably most of the administrations and faculties of most of the universities in the country. There's some that, but he still turned out great crowds. He emboldened and gave courage to those students who, probably had been beaten down a little bit about because they had conservative beliefs. But it's built in. You just hope your child, when they go to college, has a good enough foundation to be a free thinker and be able to stand up for themselves, or hope that they go to a university where their views are more welcome.
We got a break right here, but you're going to hang around with us. We'll talk for another segment, right?
Yes, sir. Look forward
to it. All
right,
right, great. We got Gregg Harper, former congressman from Mississippi, on the line. We're coming right back. Well, studio, we're visiting with former Congressman Gregg Harper. So, Gregg, what should be our response? Those of us on the right who certainly are deeply saddened and disturbed by this event yesterday. It does feel like that we've been, I guess, a little overshadowed by the left and their activism, has devolved into violence, honestly. What should we do? I mean, the Speaker of the House this morning, he got kind of short with his members there and called for order in the chamber, which he should, honestly, of course. But what action can we take? Have you thought through that? I'm kind of at a loss on what we should do here.
Yeah, I think it's obviously individual decisions that you have to make. That I would certainly say, we're in a period of mourning, and will be for a number of days, if not longer. But I think at the same time, you have to look and say, okay, what am I going to do? I think emulating the way that Charlie Kirk has been in his life is certainly an effective way to be disagreeable but respectful with those who have different opinions. So I think we've got to look at the end of the day, we've got to win elections, don't we? We've got to make sure we keep control of the House. Well, I think right now, one of the things going on is we know next year in 2026, one of the issues again will be a woman's right of reproduction and women's health care, and not ever saying the word abortion. But that's a big issue in a lot of places across the country. And the Republicans can't be silent on that issue. So they've got to be able to show, for instance, over the next, campaign season, the value of that human life, that heartbeat is a child, it's a human being, and start kind of shifting that narrative to where we change that mindset. So I think if we're going to just rant and rave, I don't know that we're going to be particularly effective going forward. We're just going to make the battle lines even more severe. So I would say we've got to be strong. We've got to know what our message is. And I think the last thing that we want to do is not be in the arena. So I do believe we've got to be supporting those candidates that are going to be, brave and do those things. And we just can't look, this is a major setback. If you're praying that, as we mourn the loss of Charlie Kirk, who's going to fill that vacuum? It's going to be hard to find somebody of that caliber. But we just hope that they will, and that the college students will remain strong, that have become very adamant on their conservative beliefs. So it's a tough time. It's not easy. Good night. All from our side, from the political side on Republicans, you hope that Jasmine Crockett continues to be the face of the Democratic Party. We've got an opportunity if we handle it right, but we've got to look forward to know that those conservative principles are the right principles, and we've got to be sure that we get the vote out, we keep people involved. But in the meantime, we can't. The violence has no place, but it's there. And so how do we protect against it, make sure we protect it? And I would really say all the members of the House and Senate, state, local, federal, whatever you got, most people wouldn't want to be in their shoes. It's a tough place, whether it's time away from families or other threats. We got death threats all the time. And I don't even know what I said that upset people. We were always trying to be diplomatic on that, but it's a common occurrence. And guess what? The world's full of crazy people, and it is. It's a tough place. So.
We've been talking some this morning about lots of people just across the country that are saying just totally inappropriate and insensitive things. Of course, like you said earlier, they have this tool, social media, where they can just express their views, and it's for all to see. We just reported on one from the Carolina Panthers, and it was a member of their staff, and was terminated. The organization made a statement this morning. Matthew Dowd at MSNBC. Props to MSNBC for doing the right thing. CEO issued a statement. He made inappropriate comments yesterday, right after the shooting, and so he was fairly abruptly terminated. And there are numerous others. I exposed someone on the staff at Ole Miss this morning that posted something totally inappropriate, and that's going viral all over the place. It feels like that what we can at least do is maybe shame those folks and condemn their statements in a respectful way, but still condemn them, and maybe that'll motivate these organizations to take action.
Yeah, how can anybody say that a person who was assassinated, that it was their fault? I mean, come on. I mean, that you have no intellectual, authority, or, I mean, you've lost anything that you had on your credibility if you say that when he's just sitting there talking to a group of college students, and it's his fault. Look, he stood up for free speech in this country, for our First Amendment, like nobody else had. He gave his life for it. And we just have to make sure that, his legacy is honored by how we act and behave going forward, but to not be afraid to stay in the arena no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely true. I just feel like we can't stay silent, that we can't, and that we don't want to replicate what they do and their approach and their tactics. Those are unacceptable in my view, but there's a way to address this in a way that gets people's attention, that maybe causes them to rethink their agendas and their strategies and their policies, where we've just kind of jumped a shark here, and we've put all of this physical attribute stuff above everything else, and it's irrelevant, honestly. It's all about your value proposition in whatever the endeavor is.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And what we've got to do is make sure that we've got to do a better job of explaining our conservative positions. And we just say, well, I'm for this or I'm for that, and we get attacked by the left. But we've got to make sure that we can explain that. Why is it better to have a lower tax rate? Why is it better to look at what's going on how many abortions? I mean, it's unbelievable. And it may not be a direct abortion, it may be an abortion pill, but those are the ending of lives that, honestly, society needs. We have to have.
Right.
It's unprecedented for a woman to say, well, it's my body. Well, who's going to stand up for the right of that unborn child? I mean, do they not have any rights? Is nobody going to stand up for them? And I think what we need to do as part of that, I said earlier, Gerard, is have women on commercials next year that can say, hey, I didn't abort my baby. Or somebody says, that was the worst decision I ever made in my life. Don't do it. Where we don't have to make it political, but start showing that value's there, and it's a blight on our society. It's a curse on our society.
I feel that, and I agree, but I also feel like maybe the same should be applied, in the same strategy used for those that rushed into having these gender treatments and transforming their biological sex to some gender identity, and then regretting it down the road and having to deal with all the other medical issues that surface as well, because the left just seems to be all leaned into that and
it's crazy, isn't it?
defending this idea of mutilating a child's genitals, which is just insane to me.
Gerard, look, here's the thing. If you're an adult and you just are stupid and you want to do something, then it's hard to argue with that. But to have society help a child go through something that they really don't understand, that
100%.
They're not in a position, it's horrible. And then for the Dems to be all in, it seems, on letting men compete in women's sports or go in women's locker rooms or bathrooms. That's a I mean, we always talk about an 80-20 issue. That's probably about a 99-1 issue. And
Sure
my
seems.
goodness, yeah,
I think you're right. I think I would be parading those stories, real life stories of how people have been harmed across the board in next year's midterms as the way to retain control of the House and even expand our lead in the Senate somewhat. But Congressman, always good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on today. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Have a great day. We'll see you. Thanks. Bye.
Yes, sir. God bless. Thank you. We're coming right back.